Outreach is a big part of what the college is about as well. I mean, it's one of the big parts of the mission. You've worked with kids in Detroit. And how do you take these kids who maybe don't know that much about music and tell them not only to take an interest and work hard at this, but also, by the way, you have to be a role player. You're not going to be a star with this.
Well, I think I grew up in Detroit, and I beg maybe not to differ, but I think that many of the kids that we work with have had good music training and are certainly talented, and perhaps maybe their training has been has come from a different model where you typically will learn to play in public school and church, and so there's a different sort of training. And for me, that's my upbringing. I mean, I had a combination of all those things. I had early lessons, public school training, and I learned how to play by ear in church. So it's sort of, for me, it's going home, it's communicating with kids that I speak the same language, because I grew up in similar circumstances in a similar environment. I mean, the same environment, really. But I think it's the mission of all musicians, outreach. I mean, we do it without thinking about it. Sometimes it's official or unofficial. I mean, officially we do it in a university, but even if we weren't affiliated with a university, we would still participate in outreach. I mean, that's inherent to being a musician. You play music for other people to enjoy and to listen, and we are constantly trying to communicate and express our ideas and our vision for music.
Does that seem like a natural for you? I mean, hearing that from these gentlemen, is that like, absolutely, this is what we want, this is our goal?
It does. Although I must say that I am a very fortunate person to have the colleagues that I have, because you don't find that attitude necessarily in all schools, and I believe that the faculty at the MSU College of Music are really together and in sync with the broader mission of this university, the land-grant mission, and it does fit very nicely with the field of music in general. But I have colleagues that are out in the schools, out in the community, and students doing the same thing. It is wonderful to see, and they do it with expertise. And it's been great to see, for instance, in Rodney's program, going to Detroit with his students. Yeah. He's mentoring his students, and his students are mentoring other students. So there are really 3 generations there at work interacting, and there's no better way to teach our students than to see the commitment and the expertise of, in Rodney's case, the professors of jazz going there, and then his students that he's recruited from across the country going with him, not just staying on campus, but going with him and working with younger. It also shows an obligation to pass on a tradition.
When I've worked with musicians through various TV shows, I found that this is a group of people who are not without a lot of creativity, but also a fair amount of ego. And I try to I'm not staring at you guys when I say that for any stretch of the imagination.
You have to have ego to get on a stage. You need an ego.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. And as a dean, how do you harness that? I mean, because that's not always an easy thing to deal with, personalities, egos.
I'm not a harnesser. Folks typically, everyone has their moments, and that's a good thing, usually.
Yes, good thing?
I think so. I agree that you have to have an ego to get on stage, although you also have to have humility to work with others. And so a combination of being humble and a combination of having an ego pushes you forward.
I have to cut you off. We'll be right back after this.